And how can we create the validation rules in order to validate the data, to maintain the quality, to maintain the accuracy of our records. We'll see practically. And upon preparing these validation rules, what kind of limitations has been given by Salesforce, and what are the various ready-made functions has been given by Salesforce to prepare the validation rules. We'll see practically one by one. Okay. Now, so first of all, we have to understand what exactly validation. Validation in the sense what? Okay. Now, to verify the format. For example, assume that I'm having a mobile. Now I would like to make a call to one of the mobile number, to my friend or colleague, whatever. I'm making a call. As soon as once you click on that call button, directly will it be connecting to the mobile number, or will it do any verification before connecting to that mobile number? It will do some necessary verifications. Like first of all, it will verify whether you are having the balance available inside your mobile number or not. That means, do we have any sufficient funds to make a call to the person or not? For example, my mobile balance is 0. I don't have the balance amount in order to make some calls. In this case, it won't connect to the mobile number directly, it is giving the message to you, so you have insufficient funds to make the call to the people. It won't connect to the mobile number here. First of all, it is verifying whether we are having the sufficient funds inside our mobile or not. Next. So once the balance is available or not, it will verify, and then it will verify whatever the mobile number that you have entered, that mobile number is having 10 digits or not. That means, is it a valid mobile number or not? It will verify. If it is a valid mobile number, then it will try to connect that. Upon connecting to that, before connecting to that mobile number, it will verify, do you have the proper signal available or not? If you're having that signal, then only it will try to connect to the mobile number over here. If the mobile number is working, then it will be connecting to the mobile number so that we can have the conversation. If the mobile number is in switch off mode, it will try to connect to the mobile number for 15 seconds. If it is unable to connect, it will be giving the message here, the mobile number is in switch off. That means what? It is doing some verification. Before connecting to that mobile number, it is doing some validation, it is doing some verification. It is checking something over here. Now, for example, assume that today I am going to the supermarket or a shopping mall to buy some gift. Whenever you are entering into the shopping mall, there is a entry gate is available. Everybody has to pass through that entry gate only. So whenever I'm trying to be entering into the shopping mall through entry gate, in that entry gate there is a security person is there. That person won't allow you to enter into the shopping mall directly. First of all, they will stop you there itself. They will do the necessary verifications here. They will cross-check you. Do you have any unwanted items along with you? Like some pistols, some bombs, some knife, some unwanted items. Do you have any unwanted items along with you or not? They will verify. If you have any unwanted items, they won't allow, okay, they will be simply throwing out to you. If you don't have those unwanted items, then they will allow you to enter into the shopping mall. That means what? Here also they are going to doing some verifications over here. Okay. Now, in this case here, not only in the real world, whenever I'm going to be creating the records inside my object also, whenever I'm creating a new record inside the object, we can able to do some necessary verifications also. In order to do those necessary verifications, we are going to be preparing some automated rules which are called as validation rules. So validation rules are used to validating the information. When? Before insertion. Before connecting to the mobile number, it is verifying all these, it will cross-check all the things. Before entering into the shopping mall, it will cross-check all the things. Like the similar way, before inserting the record into that object here, it will be firing this rule. This rule will verify whether you are having the record values are correct or not. Like for example, come to a general scenario. For example, I am having an object. I have a table here. It may be standard or custom, whatever, anything. I have an object. Inside this object, I'm having few columns. ID column, name column, age column, gender column, and then salary column. These are the columns out there. Now, I'm having a table right now. So now my table name is some employee table. It's my employee table. Inside this table, I'm having few columns, like the ID of the employee, name of the employee, and then I would like to specify the gender value, and then age, and the salary. Okay, salary. So these are the various columns are available inside my table. Now, so now whenever I'm creating this column, okay, whenever I'm creating these columns, I have indicated that gender value should be either male or female, only one value. Okay. So now when coming to the gender column should be having the value over here. Only one character here. That character should be either M or F. Only one. Not both. Not other characters. Only one character. That character should be either M or F. Next. When coming to my employees, I'm having some limitations for the age. Age should be a numerical value over here. Okay, age should be a numerical. So I'm indicating that age value over here. The age should be between 20 to 70 here. I'm having the limitation. When coming to the salary here, I would like to give some limitation over here. I'm indicating the salary value should be between 10,000 to 1 lakh. So these are some limitations are available here. Okay, now. So now here in this case here, I'm having this table. Upon creating the columns inside the table, I have given some limitations that gender column should have only one character. That character should be either M or F. And then age value should be a numerical, so that I'm selecting the data type as number data type, so which will be accepting the numerical values here. Number data type will allow how many digit number value to you? Number data type. Number field type will allow us to enter maximum of a 18 digit number inside that, not more than that. That 18 digits including decimal digits also over here. Okay. Now, so when coming to the age, I'm indicating that age should be between 20 to 70 only. Not more than that, not less than that. I'm having some boundary. And when coming to the salary also, I'm having some boundaries available here. Now, today, I'm creating a record here. I'm inserting a new record inside my object. Now, I'm inserting a record. Now, the record ID is 001234. I'm supplying the record ID as 001234. Name, some Rajesh Kumar. I'm creating that employee name as Rajesh Kumar. Gender, I'm indicating as male. Age, I'm indicating as some 100. Salary, some 24,000. Now tell me, can I accept this record? No. Why? Age is 100. Okay. So in this case, upon creating that age column, I have given that data type as number. I have given the data type as number. Number will allow the numerical values. 100 is not a number. It is also number. Then what is the difficulty? Now, as part of my application here, I don't want to give the number value, age value as 100. Because in the current generation, the maximum age of a person is 60 years. Okay, top. Okay, after that, we may be there in the world, we may not be there. There is no guarantee here. Okay. So now, in this case here, so that here I am giving the limitation that my employees can have the age between 20 to 70 only, max, more than that, not more than that. Okay. So in this case here, whenever we are trying to be inserting this kind of records, in this record, almost all the values may be correct, but one invalid value is available here. there is an invalid value like as age the user has entered as 100 because the people are end users. They may be entering any values also, but at that time, my application should not crash. My application should not hang. My application has to prevent this kind of invalid values. My application has to do this kind of necessary verifications. Whenever I'm trying to be inserting the record, okay, so at that time, I can't cross-check those values because I am the human being, so I can do some mistakes also. I can do some mistakes because I'm not the robot. So enter to perform all the operations as right. So I can do some malfunctionings also sometimes. I may be doing some mistakes also at that time, even though when the end user is trying to be doing the wrong mistakes, at that time, my application has to identify those kind of mistakes. My application has to prevent this kind of malfunctionings. So in this case here, instead of validating the data manually by my own, I would like to delegate that responsibility to my database itself. To my Salesforce application itself, I'm delegating the responsibility. Our end users are available from different locations. The people are creating the records from the different ways. So now please verify these record values. Because as an administrator, I can't sit in front of that system every time to cross-check the record values. So that here, I'm going to be delegating this responsibility to my system itself by configuring some automated rules so that whenever you are trying to be inserting some new records, whenever you are updating the existing records, automatically the rule has to be get filed. It has to do the necessary validations over here. It will do the cross-check each and every field value. If the values are correct, then only please allow the record into my object. So if the values are not correct, if any of the values are invalid, it should not accept my record here. Please throw that record out. Don't allow those kind of records here because I don't want to accept the invalid information inside my object, which may cause some ambiguities in the future, which may cause some confusions in the future here. So that I don't want to allow this kind of wrong information. Always I want to make my records as quality records. That means data should be always a quality data. Data should be accuracy always here. It should not have any redundancy. It should not have any duplications. It should not cause any ambiguities also in future. For that one here, always I would like to have the valid information inside my objects here. So that here, before inserting the record or before updating the record, I would like to validate this information here. In order to validate this information, we are using a feature called as validation rules. Okay, validation rules. Now, so in this case here, then what we are doing in this case, for example, come to a general scenario. I'm creating an account record here. Click on this accounts tab. Click on the new button. I'm trying to be creating a new record. So now I'm entering some values for few fields. Type value I have entered, industry I have entered, annual revenue I have entered, rating value, phone value, fax value, everything I have entered. Now I'm creating a record. Once you click on that save button, my record is not saving. Why? Because here there is a mandatory field is there for which we did not supply the value here. That means what? My application is enforcing. Okay, my application is enforcing to the user. Boss, you did a small mistake upon creating the record. There is a mandatory field is there which is name. For that field you did not supply the value. So please enter the value. Then only I will accept your record into my object here. That means what? It is enforcing the user to provide the values over here. Okay, to provide the values inside those fields. So in this case here, when coming to the validation rules are always enforce you to enter the values inside that fields. If there is any mandatory fields are there, compulsorily we have to enter the values inside that field over here. If you did not enter the value for any of the mandatory field, your record cannot be acceptable. Your record operation will be simply truncated here. Your operation will be getting cancelled. So in this case here, we can able to configure the validation rules also. Validation rules are always enforcing the user to enter the proper entry of data inside the fields. Okay. Validation rules are always enforcing you to enter the proper entry of data inside the fields here. Like for example, I'm entering some name over here, like as some Reliance Industry. There is an annual revenue field. I'm entering the value like as some rupees 10,000. I'm entering the value like this here. Annual revenue rupees some 10,000. Once you click on save button, what happened? I have entered some value, but it's not a mandatory field. It's an optional. Even though I have entered some value over here, but even though my record cannot be acceptable. Why? Because upon giving the value for the field, I have entered some wrong information. That means here, when coming to the validation, not only it is enforcing you to enter the data, whatever the data that you have entered, please enter the correct information inside that. Don't enter the wrong information. So now annual revenue is a currency field. Currency field is allowing only the numerical values, but here I have entered some characters also inside that which cannot be acceptable. So that here it is always enforcing you to enter the correct information inside that. Don't enter the wrong information. If it is an optional, if you don't want to enter the value, leave it blank, no problem. But don't enter the wrong information inside this. Now, so now here I'm entering the value as 10,000 over here. Once you click on save, now my record will be getting acceptable here. But here there is a duplicate records are available here based on that same name. Now let me give some different name over here. Now, so now here in this case, the similar kind of phone number has been used by some other records. There are some duplicate rules has been given by Salesforce. Still the similar kind of values are there. Based on this values, it is identifying the duplications over here. Now, my record has been accepted here. That means what? Whenever I'm trying to be inserting the new records, first of all, we need to validate whether the user has entered the data in all the mandatory fields or not. If the user has entered the data, then the data is in the correct format or not. We need to validate that here. For that one, Salesforce is going to be enforcing you to please enter the correct information always so that we can maintain the quality records information, we can maintain the accuracy of your data also. In order to maintain the quality, in order to maintain the accuracy of your records, we are going to be utilizing validation tools. Now, in this case, whenever I'm going to be doing the validations, here we have two types of validations are available. We can do the validations in two places. Now, when coming to the validation tools, we have two types of validation tools are available. The first one is the client-side validations. Second one is the server-side validations. Okay. Client-side validations and then server-side validations. So what do you mean by client-side validation? What do you mean by server-side validation? Client-side validations in the sense what? Server-side validations in the sense what? Okay. Okay. Now, server-side validations in the sense in the database. Okay. Now, right. Okay. Code level also. Now, so now in this case here, for example, assume that this is the object that we have. I'm having this object. In order to manage the records inside my object, I'm creating a user interface. I'm having the user interface. In this user interface, I'm having some text boxes to enter the employee's data here. To enter the employee ID, one text box. To enter the employee name, one more text box. Gender, one more text box. Age value, salary value. So I'm having the various text boxes are available in order to enter this employee's information to create a new record. To enter that name value, one more text box. To enter the gender value, another text box. To enter the age value, one more text box. To enter that salary, one more text box. Along with that, I'm having a button control to insert the record here. And I'm having a button control to cancel that operation. So these are the button controls are available. Okay. Now, so this is the user interface that we have right now. Now I'm creating a new record right now by entering some values. I'm entering that employee ID as 001456 and employee name I'm giving as Rakesh. Next, gender as some male. Age some 40. Salary some 9,000. Now, I've entered some values inside this text box. As soon as once you click on the save button, what will happen? Will my record will be saving into your object or not? No. Why? Salary value should be between 10,000 to 1 lakh only. But I have entered less than 10,000 over here. Now, so in this case, what happened here? How can we verify this one? Here we are having the front end part, the user interface part, which is also called as client. Which is also called as client. It is also called as the front end. It is also called as the view. It is also called as presentation, screen, forms, pages, whatever, anything. The people are using some different terminology over here to refer this one. So now this is the client, this is the actual database, nothing but the server, where exactly the database, the data will be getting resides here. Now, I'm having that backend, I'm having the front end. So now in this case here, I'm entering these values. I've entered some values inside this here. Now, whenever we are validating the data, we can validate the data at the two places here. One is at the client side, second one is at the server side here. Now, then what do you mean by this client side validation? What do you mean by server side validations here? Client side validations in the sense, validating these field values in the user interface level. That means inside that browser level itself, we can able to validate that information. Validating the data in the browser level itself. That means before making the request to that Salesforce server, before trying to be creating the records inside that object here, first of all, as soon as when the user click on save button, first of all, I want to verify whether the user has entered the data in all the mandatory fields or not. If the user has entered the data in the fields, whether he has entered the values in the correct format or not, I need to cross check that. So validating the data in the user interface level is called as client-side validations. In some cases, what I want to do is, I don't want to validate the data at the client side. So now, as soon as the user has entered some data, when I click on that save button, blindly I will be sending the request to the database. Now, whenever the record is trying to be inserting into the database level, database will verify this information, where this account ID, employee ID will be storing inside this here, employee name will be storing inside this, gender value will be getting storing inside this, age value will be storing inside this, salary value will be storing inside this. Before storing this record values, first of all, it will verify whether whatever the values you have supplied inside these fields, whether these values are matching with these conditions or not. It will verify the conditions here. If the conditions are matching, if all the conditions are satisfied, then only your record will be getting acceptable, or else your record will be getting discarded from that request here. Simply your operation will be getting cancelled. That means what here? From my user interface, blindly I'm sending the record. That's it here. Blindly I'm sending the record to that server. Server is going to be doing the necessary validations over here. In the server side here, there are some mismatchings are available, some conflicts are available. The user did not enter the values in the correct format, so that the server will not allow you to insert the record inside this object here. So in this case, validating the data at the database level or at the business logic level is called as server side validations. Validating the information at the database level is called as server side validations. Validating the data at the user interface level is called as client-side validations here. We have two types of validations: client-side validation and then server-side validation over here. Now tell me, from these two, which one is the most preferred one? Can we go with client-side or can we go with server-side? Client-side. Why? Why client-side here? Now in this case here, for example, if I'm not doing at the client side, what will happen? Now let's see here. Now the user has entered some data. In this one rank value is also available. I'm not validating that here. When the user click on the save button blindly, I'm sending this record details to my database. So now to send this request from my local system to the Salesforce server, it will take some time, right? Yes. It may be some fraction of milliseconds also. It will be taking some time. Now my server will be receiving that request. It will be start processing the request. That means it is trying to be inserting the record. Before inserting the record, it is doing some validations over here, whether the user has entered the values in all the fields or not with correct information or not. To do the validation, it will take some time or not in the database level. Yes. Now, upon validating the data, it has identified, so there is a salary value which is not matching here. Salary value is outside of this range. The salary value should be between 10,000 to 1 lakh, but the value is outside of this range, so we can't accept that. So in this case, it is rejecting your record, it is sending the response back to you here. That your record cannot be acceptable because please enter the salary value between 10,000 to 1 lakh here. Now to send the response back, it is going to be taking some time here. That means what? To initiate the request, we are going to be wasting some time. We are wasting some time of my server also over here because to process my request and then it is giving the response back also, and then to get the response back, it will take some time. That means what? We are wasting our time, we are wasting our resources also because unnecessarily keep on I'm sending the request to my server over here. Because my server is not only processing only my request, server is processing other users' request also, other customers' request also. In this case here, don't waste the resources. We have to utilize the resources very, very efficiently here. In this case here, whenever we are going to be raising the request, before sending the data to the server, first of all, please validate the information inside the client side itself here. Don't validate the data in the database level here. Please verify inside the client side itself. Nothing but only at the user interface. Before sending the data, we are going to be verifying that here. If the data is correct, having the correct values or not, if the data is correct or not, then only we can able to send the request to that server, so that the server can able to receive the request, it can process the request here. So that we can reduce the number of server trips. We can reduce the number of the request to the Salesforce server, so that we can able to utilize the server resources very, very efficiently by reducing the network traffic also, so that we can make our application performance improve. For that reason here, always it is preferred, always it is recommended, don't go with that, the server-side validations, always go with the client-side validations over here. If the client-side validations are not sufficient, then only go with that server-side validations over here. Okay? Now, so in this case, whenever we are going to be implementing the validations, always it is recommended to prepare the client-side validation rules. Now, in this case, how can we prepare the client-side validations over here? How can we do the client-side validations? Client-side validation rules can be always implemented with the help of by using some scripting languages. Okay, scripting languages. Client-side validations can be done with the help of scripting languages. Like we have so many scripting languages are available in the web technologies. Like we are having JavaScript. We are having VB script. VB script will support both client-side and server-side validations also. Next one, we are having JScript. We are having jQuery. We are having AngularJS. These are the libraries, JavaScript libraries. And then Knockout.js. And then Backbone.js. And Extension.js. Like that here, we are having so many scripting languages are available. By using that scripting languages, by learning those scripting languages, we need to write some code. That code we can use to do the validations at the client side. That means browser side. User interface level, if you want to do any validations, that validation code can be done with the help of the scripting languages. So we have to learn the scripting languages. With the help of the scripting languages, we can able to write some code, and that code we can use to validate that information. Now, in this case, where we need to write this code I would like to place inside my user interface here. User interface means what? Page layout. Inside the page layout, I would like to embed that scripting language code here. Now tell me, can I embed that scripting language code inside my page layout? No. Page layout won't allow. Page layout is giving some flexibilities to me to customize the fields available inside that. How to arrange the fields, how to customize the fields, how to add the sections. We are having that possibilities, but we can't write any code inside that page layout. We can't embed any code. We can't include any code, any scripting code inside that page layout here. So that page layout does not allow you to embed your scripting languages code here. Now, in this case, how can we do the client-side validation? For that one here, instead of writing that code by using scripting languages here, instead of embedding that code inside that the page layout, Salesforce has given some ready-made functions. With the help of those ready-made functions, we can able to implement the client-side validation tools. So that here, Salesforce is providing so many ready-made functions over here. By using the ready-made function, we can implement the client-side validation tools. Now, in this case, we can raise a question, sir, do I need to learn the scripting languages now to do the validations? No. No need to use this one, because here, if I'm using the scripting languages code, even though if you're having some knowledge on that scripting languages, even though if you're writing some code, that code I can't embed inside my page layout because it won't allow to embed that code. Okay? So only we can able to arrange the fields. That's it. We can't embed that code inside this. So that here, so we no need to use any scripting languages. We no need to learn any scripting languages to write the code, to do that validations. Whatever the features are required, all the features have been given by Salesforce in terms of the various ready-made functions. By using those ready-made functions, we can create some automated rules called as validation rules, and which will be firing in the client side and which will be validating your data before sending the request to the Salesforce server. Okay, before sending the request to the Salesforce server, it is going to firing this validation rules and it is going to validating the data. If the data is in the correct format, then only the request will be sending to the server, or else your request will not be sent to the server. That means it won't send the request to that server. That means we can't put some more load on the server, so that we can reduce the number of server trips also. Okay. So for that reason, here we are using this validation rules. Especially, we are going to be implementing the client-side validation rules with the help of that ready-made functions given by Salesforce. Okay. Now, so in this case, with the help of this validation rules, we can able to implement the client-side validations with the help of some ready-made functions which has been given by Salesforce. Okay. Now, so in this case here, how can we prepare this validation rules? So what is that navigation to prepare these validation rules? We'll see practically over here. Okay. Now, so now here in this case here, when coming to the validation rules, so what is the main purpose of validation rules? What is the main use? To maintain the data quality, to maintain the data accuracy over here. Okay. Now, make a note of this one here. By using validation rules, we can enforce the users to provide proper entry of data in the fields upon creating or updating the records in the object. Upon creating or upon updating the records. By using validation rules, we can achieve the data quality and data accuracy. We can achieve the data quality and the data accuracy. I'm giving some main points over here because already we're having the hard copy material with you. No. Make a note. Always it is recommended to have the validations at client side. That is at the browser level. Don't do the validations at the server side. Server side validations also we have to do in some cases. Okay, I will give you that scenarios also to you. Okay. So, but always it is recommended to have the validations at the client side. That means at the user interface level itself. Only at the browser level we can do the validations. Now, so now when these validation rules will fire, before insertion or after insertion? After insertion. If the record is inserted, okay, after inserting what we can do? Nothing, right? Already duplicate data and wrong information is there. But we can't allow. That means duplicate records or the wrong information I don't want to allow. So that here validation rules are always firing before insertion, before updation here, in both the cases here. Then who will fight that validation rules over here? Now, in this case here, whenever we are going to be creating the record or whenever we are updating the records here, at that time, we are going to be using the button called as save button. As soon as once you click on the save button is informing to that Salesforce instance, please verify, do we have any validation rules on these fields or not? If any validation rules are available, please find those validation rules over here. Okay? It will be informing to that the page layout, please verify whether the user has created any validation rules on these fields or not. If any validation rules are available, then please find those validation rules. Once the validation rules has been getting filed, it will verify each and every field data. If the data is correct, then only it will be inserting the record into the object here by sending the request to the server. If any of the validation rule has been failed, if any of the validation has been failed, if any of the field is not having the correct values, your request will be getting terminated over there. Request will be getting aborted. It will be simply giving the message to you, record cannot be acceptable. There is a field is there for which you did not supply the value. Or you have supplied some wrong value inside that over here, like as illegal assignment. Okay? So it is expecting the integer values, but you have supplied the character values over there. So that here in this case, whenever we are going to be firing the validation rules are always firing before insertion and the before updation. At that time, before inserting the record also, we are having that save button over here. And then before updating the record also, at the time of updation also, I'm opening an existing record, click on this edit button to modify. So now I'm making some changes over here. In order to commit these changes back to the database, again we have the save button here. So that upon click on the save button, to insert or to update the records also, this save button is first of all informing to the page layout, please find all the validation rules which we have on these fields. All the validation rules will be getting initiated. It will verify the field values. If all the validation rules are successfully completed, if there is no wrong information, then only the request will be sending to the Salesforce server to insert the record. Or else, if any of the validation rule has been failed, it will be preventing you to insert the record inside. The object request will not send to the server here. Okay? So that the save button is going to be initiating all the validation rules here to be get filed. Okay? So in this case here, validation rules are always firing before insertion and before updations here. Not at the time of after. Like for example, so now we are having the sharing rules are available. When sharing rule will fire, sharing rules are always firing after insertion and after updation, because to share the record, first of all, record should be there here. Then only we can share the record. If the record is not there, then what I can share? So that your record should be there, so that sharing rules are always firing after insertion, after updation. But validation rules are always firing before insertion and the before updation in both the cases over here. Not only at the time of insertion. Suppose for example here, I have created the record over here. Now my record has been accepted here. But now I'm updating the record. In this case, I'm going to be removing this field value. Once you click on the save button, in this case also validation has been filed. Because this has been given by Salesforce over here. These are the system validations. Okay? Now, in this case here, when coming to the validation rules, these are always firing before insertion and before updations over here. Okay? Now, make a note here. Always validation rules will fire before insert or before updation of the record. Before inserting the record and before updating the record into the object, automatically my validation rule will get fired. Now, that is upon click on save button, it will initiate all the validations rules to be get fired. Upon click on save button, it will initiate all the validation rules to be get fired. If all the validation rules are satisfied, then the record will be inserted into the object. If any of the validation fails, it will prevent or it will abort the operation. It will abort the operation by displaying the error message in the technical terms. By displaying the error message in the technical terms. It will abort your operation here. The operation cannot be initiated. The record cannot be inserted into the object. Record cannot be updated, and it will be giving the error message to you in the technical terms here. In this case, whenever we are going to be preparing the validation rules here, we have two types of validation rules are available in Salesforce. Okay, we have two types of validation rules. Same. You know that concept. What are these two types? Client side. Forget about client side, server side. System, standard, and user defined. That's it. We have two types of validation rules are available over here. The first one is the standard validation rules. Okay, standard validation rules. That means these are also called as system defined validation rules. System defined validation rules. Second one is the custom validation rules. That may be defined by whom? The developers. Developer or administrator can create the validation rules here. Depends upon the requirement. So now what do you mean by this standard validation rule? Standard validation rules in the sense these are the validation rules which will be preparing by Salesforce by default. Why Salesforce will prepare? When Salesforce will prepare here? Now, whenever I am going to be creating the field, if I am selecting the required checkbox here, okay, required checkbox, that means what? That field is a mandatory field. Compulsorily, we have to supply the value. Then who will verify that one? Salesforce will take care of that here. How it is taking care of? By creating the validation rule by the Salesforce itself. Salesforce is creating some validation rules whenever we are going to be creating the fields which are of type mandatory fields here. Upon creating the field, Okay, if you are making that field as mandatory by selecting the required checkbox, or by using page layout customization, if you are making the field required by selecting the required checkbox, automatically Salesforce will create some validation rules on those fields. Those validation rules are called as standard validation rules, or which are also called as system defined validation rules, to make sure that field should not be a null value here. Okay, in order to make sure the value should not be a null, compulsorily the user has to enter some value. That may be right or wrong, whatever, but user has to enter some value. Okay, so now in order to make sure that the user has entered the values or not, Salesforce is creating some validation rules on the mandatory fields, which are called as standard validation rules, or those are also called as system defined validation rules. Now, in this case here, sometimes, okay, in some cases here, now I want to make most of the fields are mandatory here. Then what we can do? Then what we can do? We can go to the page layout, simply select the required checkbox for each and every field. Then what will happen? Whenever I'm going to be making the field as mandatory by selecting the required checkbox, or through page layout also we can make the field required. At that time, that field will be getting visible to you along with the red color bar symbol. If you're making most of the fields are, okay, mandatory by using page layout customization, every field will be looking like with a red color bar symbol here. But whenever the user is trying to be utilizing the user interface, when you click on that new button, if the form has been opened, which will be having almost all the fields are red color, then the people will get shocked. Because here we are having so many fields are there, all are mandatory. To enter the data in all these fields, it will take a minimum half an hour of time, but I don't have that much of time here. So even though the person is 24 hours free, but the people not having the patience to enter the data in all the fields here. Okay, so now here in this case here, okay, now here in this case, the people won't show interest to utilize these kind of applications here. Okay, the people won't show interest to utilize this kind of applications. Then what I want to do, I would like to capture the people slowly to my side over here. For that one, I want to make the field mandatory, but I don't want to provide the red color bar symbol here. Okay, without showing the red color bar symbol, I want to make that field mandatory over here. How? With the help of validation rules. Whenever we are making the fields required through validation rules, then it will make that field mandatory, but red color bar symbol will not visible. Then the user will start off, it is an optional field over here, so no need to enter the value. After entering the value inside this particular red color text box field, he will click on save button here. When you click on save button, my rule will fire, it will be showing the message, please enter the value for that phone field. The user will start off, only the phone number is mandatory, only this one field is mandatory, so we'll enter the value. When you click on save button, one more rule will fire, it will ask you to enter the value for industry field. When you click on that, after entering the value, when you click on save button, one more rule will fire here. So that we need to capture the customer slowly to our side. Okay, this is one of the business strategy that we are going to following upon building the applications over here. Okay, so that here, when coming to Salesforce, they have given all these mechanisms to you over here. Okay, that already you know that. In order to make the field required, we have 4 ways are available. You know that concept here. One is, we can use required checkbox upon creating the field. Second one, page layout customization. Third one, validation rules. Fourth one, triggers. Okay, 4 ways are available to make that field required. 2 ways already you know. Page layout customization you know, and then upon creating the field also you know. Third way we are discussing with the help of validation rules here. By using this validation rules also, we can able to make the field required without showing that red color bar symbol here. That is the difference. If you are making that field required by using page layout customization or by using required checkbox, it will display the red color bar symbol here. If you are making the field required through validation rules and triggers, at that time, it won't display the red color bar symbol. The field will be looking like as optional, but upon creating the record, it will fire the validations here. Okay, this is the difference over here. Now, in this case here, I don't want to make every field should be look like wearing with the red color bar symbol. So I want to make some fields mandatory without showing the red color bar symbol also. So for that reason here, we can able to create our own validation rules also, depends upon our requirement here. Based on my requirement, I would like to validate that information. For that one, the developer or administrator can create their own validation rules, which are called as custom validation rules. okay, which are called as custom validation rules. Now, so now whatever the validation rules that we are creating, those are called as custom validation rules in Salesforce here. Now, in this case here, when coming to the custom validation rules, where we can create here, validation rules are applicable only on standard object fields. No, validation rules can be applicable on standard objects as well as custom objects also. Validation rules can be applicable on both the standard objects as well as custom objects also. Now, in this case, we can raise a question, sir, do we have any limitations upon creating the validation rules? Like an object can have only these many number of validation rules? Yes, there is some limitations given by Salesforce here. Okay, there is a limitation given by Salesforce over here. Now, let me show you that governor limit here. Governor limit. So what is the governor limit for that validation rules? Now let's see. Now on an object, we can create n number of validation rules also, no problem. Okay. On an object, we can create n number of validation rules also, no problem. But validation rules are pluggable components. Whenever you want, plug it. Whenever you don't want, plug it out here. That means you can make it as on, off. If the switch is on, validation rule will fire upon creation, upon updation. If the switch is off, then validation rule will not fire upon creation, upon updation here. Even though you are passing wrong values, it will send to the server. Server will do the validation over there again over here. So now in this case here, validations can be activatable and we can deactivate also. In this case, on an object, you can create n number of validation rules also, but maximum of 100 validation rules will be in activated time, not more than that. Okay, we can create 500 validation rules also, but only 100 will be in active, remaining 400 should be in inactive status over here. If you want to make one more inactive status, first of all, you have to deactivate one more thing over here. Okay, the existing one you have to deactivate, then only we can make it one more active over here. Only the 100 will be getting allowed, not more than that. Maximum of 100 active validation rules we can have per an object over here. Okay. So now here in this case here, the first one, we can have maximum of 100 active validation rules per an object. Okay, we can have maximum of 100 active validation rules per an object. This is the limitation given by Salesforce. Now, sometimes they will raise a question. Can I create 2 validation rules on the same field? Is it possible? For example, come to this scenario. Now, in this case, I want to make the salary field as mandatory. Along with that, I want to make sure salary value should be between 10,000 to 1 lakh. To make this field mandatory, I would like to create one validation rule. To make that value between 10,000 to 1 lakh, I can create one more validation rule. That means what? On a single field, we can create multiple validation rules also. That possibility is available here. Not only creating only one validation rule per a field, we can create multiple validation rules also on a single field itself. Depends upon the business requirement, depends upon the complexity of your application requirement. Okay? Now make a note over here. We can have one or more validation rules on a field. On a field, we can have one or more number of validation rules also. That possibility is available. Now, in this case, how can we prepare these validation rules over here? Now, whenever we are going to preparing the validation rules, okay, what will be available here? Now, let me explain. Each and every validation rule contains some set of parts. Every validation rule contains few parts are available. What are those parts? Let me explain. For example, here, I am creating a new record. inside my object, standard, custom, whatever, anything. So now definitely to make this field mandatory, Salesforce has created some business logic, right? Some rule has been created, some conditions have been prepared by Salesforce here. Now, as soon as once you click on that save button, what will happen? The rule will be getting applying on this particular account name field. It will verify whether the field value is empty or not. That means what? They have written some logic over here. Okay, they have written some logic to verify whether that field value is empty or not here. That logic is called as validation condition. That is called as validation condition. Next, in this case here, if the validation has been failed, that means what? The value is not available inside that here. Okay, the value is not available. If the value is not available here, then how do we know it is showing some message to you over here? There is some invalid data is there in one of your field over here. Okay, there is some invalid data you have entered in that one of the field, like inside the account name, mandatorily we are expecting some value, but you did not enter the value over here, so that there is a invalid data we have identified here, wrong information. So that means what? It is showing some error message also over here. But means this is the mistake that you did, so that it is showing that message. That means this message is called as that. It is called as an error message. Every validation rule contains the validation condition and then error message here. Okay. Next. Then where it is showing this error message? Suppose for example, if it is showing this error message only at the top of the page over here. In this case, if the field is available at the bottom, somewhere in the user interface here, then where the user can understand, how the user can understand where exactly this field. At that time, we need to search in the entire user interface. Suppose here I'm having maximum of some 20 to 30 fields are there, fine. I can search the field here. Suppose if my object is very, very big, which is having some hundreds of fields inside that, at that time, then where I can search that field here? I need to go to that entire user interface from top to bottom to search for the field over here. In this case, it will be very difficult for me to search where exactly the field is. For that reason here, I want to show the error message in a specific location. Where you want to show, I am going to be indicating at that field level over here. Because it is indicating directly, but this is a place where you did the mistake over here. Then user will go to that location directly, he will correct the mistake, he will enter the values here. That means what? Each and every validation rule contains the error location also. That means where you want me to show that error message over here. Okay? So that each and every validation rule contains three things available. First one is the validation condition, which is used to validate the data. Second one is error message, which needs to be get visible to the people, okay, in order to give the knowledge here, in order to give that information, but this is a mistake that you did. And then we have to indicate the location here, where exactly the mistake has been done by the user here. So that we need to provide these three parts for that each and every validation rules. So that every validation rule contains these three parts internally by default here. Upon preparing our own validation rules, we have to provide these three parts also. Okay? Now, make a note over here. Each validation rule contains the below three parts. The first one is the validation conditions, to be used to validate the user input. Second one, an error message to represent the error message in the user understandable format. User understandable format. Third one, error location. Location of the field which causes the error. Location of the field which causes the error. These are the three parts are available for each and every validation rule. So now whenever I'm going to be preparing the validation rules, we have to prepare the validation condition first, which will be validating the data. For that one, Salesforce has given so many ready-made functions to you. So what functions has been given by Salesforce, we'll see that here. Each and every function will take it up, and then we'll see the practical examples also on this one. Okay? Now, the first function here. The first function is blank. First function is blank. My function name is blank. This function is going to be returning the value as of type Boolean. Boolean in the sense what? True or false values. It will return true or false, anyone, not both. Now, so in this case, when this method will return true, when this method will return false. In this case here, now in order to verify whether a specific field value is blank or not, we are using this is blank function. Is blank function is used to identify whether a specific field value is blank or not, nothing but empty or not we can verify. Then which field value you want to verify, specify that field name. If it is a standard field, specify the field name. If it is a custom field, then we have to specify API name. You know that during that fields concept we have discussed, every standard field contains two properties, field label and field name. Custom field contains two properties, field label and API name here. You know that. What exactly the difference between field label and the field name, field label and the API name? You know the difference. Now field names are always referencing that column names inside the table. So now please indicate that column. In that column the value is available or not here. The user has supplied the value or not. So in this case, is blank function is used to verify whether the specified field value is blank or not. If it is blank, it will return true or else it will return false. Okay. Now, when coming to the is blank function here, it will return true. When if the field is blank. Or empty. It returns false if the field contains the value. If the field is not blank, that means if the field contains some value, it returns the value as false. I'm not giving the complete notes because you have the hard copy. Okay. Now, so now let's see how can we prepare a validation rules. Okay, and how can we use this is blank function. Let me show you practically here. So let's take a small use case here. For example, assume that I'm having a lead object. I'm having the lead object. Whenever I'm creating the lead object, nothing but lead object records. In the lead object, three mandatory fields are there by default. First one is the last name field. Second one is company field. Third one is lead status field. These are the three fields which are mandatory by default in that lead object. Remaining all the fields are optional. You may enter, you may not enter. No problem. Now, whenever I'm going to be creating a new lead record here, that means a person showed interest today here. Okay, today, a person showed interest in our products or services. I'm creating that person details inside my lead table as a new lead record. Now, once a lead record has been getting created, who will contact this lead person? My sales team will be contacting that. If the people wants to contact the lead person, first of all, they should be aware of that lead person's mobile number, right? Contact number should be required here. So now what I want to do, when coming to my lead object here, phone number field is not a mandatory here. It's an optional. You may enter, you may not enter. But now I want to make this field as a mandatory field. How can we make this field mandatory or required with the help of this validation rules? Now let's see practically here. Okay. Now let's take a small use case. Understood the requirement here? create a validation rule, to make the phone field value, to make the phone field as required upon creating or updating the lead record. Whenever we are creating a new lead record or whenever we are updating an existing lead record, I would like to make sure the lead record's phone field value should be mandatory here. Now let's see, how can we create the validation rules over here? Now, in order to create the validation rule, what is the navigation that we need to follow? Okay, let me give that navigation process over here. Now, click on the objects tab. That means on what object fields you are creating the validation rules, just you have to click on that objects tab. Right now I'm creating the validation rule to make sure the lead record's phone number value is mandatory. So that click on that leads tab. Expand the force.com quick access menu. Click on validation rules link. Click on validation rules link. Click on new button to create a new rule. Enter the validation rule label, name, and the description. Enter the validation rule label, name, and the description. Select the active checkbox to make the rule active. Enter the validation condition inside the formula editor. Click on check syntax button to validate the formula syntax. Enter the error message to be visible to the user when the validation fails. Select the error location from the pick list. And then click on save button. So this is the navigation process in order to create the validation rules. So now let's see how can we create the validation rule right now here. So now I would like to create the validation rule. Now tell me what is the condition that we need to apply in this case here. Now what is that field that we want to make it required? Phone field. If the phone value is blank, then what I want to do? You want to show the message or not? Yes. How can we verify whether that field is blank or not? Is blank function. I'm indicating that validation condition. I would like to use if is blank of phone. That means if the phone field value is blank, then I want to show the error message here. This is the condition I would like to prepare. No need to write much lines of code. Simply we can able to use that ready-made methods given by Salesforce. Just we have to use is blank of phone. That means specify the field name which you would like to verify whether it is blank or not. Okay. Now let's see how can we create this validation tool. So let's go to that leads tab. Expand the force.com quick access menu. You will be having an option called as view validation tools. Now it is populating whatever the validation rules you have created as of now. But we haven't created anything so that the table is empty right now. Now I am creating a new one. Click on new button. Specify the rule name and the description of that rule, why you are creating this rule, what is the purpose. Make that rule in active status by selecting the active checkbox. Specify that rule conditions by inside that formula editor section. This is the formula section here, formula editor section. And once the condition has been getting prepared, please verify whether the syntax is correct or not by using the check syntax button. And then enter the error message which you want to display and select the location where you want to display over here. That's it, nothing else. What functions we are using, the functions list will be available over here. If you want to see those functions here, just you can see the functions here inside this pick list. All the functions are available. If you want to know what is the description of each and every function, as soon as whenever I'm selecting the function, here it will display that the information of that function also over here. Whatever the help information is required, the function description will be getting visible to you inside this place itself here. If I'm selecting the function and, it is indicating that here. End function, logic, syntax, BR function syntax here, ABS function syntax, like that here, date value syntax, it will be indicating that. Whenever we are going to be selecting the function, automatically the syntax will be getting visible. Along with that syntax, if you need some examples, you will be having that help information is available. You have a link called as help on this function. So you can able to see some practical examples also which has been given by Salesforce. Okay. As soon as once you click on this help on this function, you can see that some examples also, description of each and every function, they will be giving the whole information. Online help will be getting available to you inside this over here, user interface. We can see the complete help document which has been given by the Salesforce for the feature, validation rules and the functions which has been given by that. They're giving that each and every function and the syntax, some examples also they're providing to you over here. They're giving that whole information also inside this. Each and every function name will be available to you here. The description, how to use an example also. They're giving some tips also to you here, how to use that. Each and every function will be getting available. Now let's see how can we use this one. Now I would like to use that a validation rule to make sure my phone number field as mandatory. I am giving that rule name over here. Lead record contact number required. I am giving the rule name as lead records contact number should be required. I am giving the description also the same. Because for my understanding here, what is the purpose of this validation rule? I am giving the description. I have given the description and the rule name. You can give any rule name, whatever you want. But please give the rule name in the meaningful format. So whatever the purpose that you are creating the rule, the purpose should be there inside the name itself. Okay? Now. So in this case here, once you are specifying the rule name and the description and making that rule as in active, now specify the rule condition. In order to specify the rule condition, we are having that formula editor is available here. Here we can able to type that formula. What is the formula condition you want to use? Is blank of phone. So if you are feeling difficulty to write this much of lengthy code, okay, simply we can able to use ready-made also. Okay. So now no need to write everything here. Just you will be having the functions are available. So what is the function you want to use? Is blank. Once you click on this, select this function here. Click on insert selected function. Function will be getting pressing over here. In this place, inside this function, I want to specify that field name. What field name you want to specify? Just remove this one. Okay, place the cursor inside that. Select the field which you want to display here. Click on that insert field. Which field you want to show? Inside my lead object, there is a field is available. What is that field name? Phone field. Which field you would like to make it required? phone field. I'm selecting that phone field here. Select the phone field. It is indicating that API name also. Click on insert here. So now my formula is ready. Without typing anything here, we can able to prepare the formula also just by selecting the functions and the fields also inside this. If you want any operators, we can use these operators also available over here ready-madely. Okay. Now here I'm using that validation formula at the condition is blank of phone. That means if the phone value is blank, then I would like to display the error message over here. Check the syntax here. Click on check syntax button. Now it is indicating that no errors found. The syntax is correct. Now what message you want to show? If the field value is blank, then what message you want to show to the user here? I would like to indicate that please enter contact number. Please enter the contact number. I want to show this message. Where you want to show this error message here? At the field level. At what field level? At this phone field level. Now, in this case, select the location over here. I want to show where you want to show at the top of the page or at the field level. I want to show at the field level. Once you select the field, at which field level you want to show. I want to show that error message at the phone field level. Select that phone. Okay. Now click on save button. Everything is ready-madely available there itself. Now my validation rule is ready, which is inactive right now. Now from now onwards here, your rule will get filed. Let me test the rule over here. Now I'm creating a new record right now. I'm creating a new record. I'm giving that first name as some Ram, last name as some Kumar. Company name I'm indicating like as some IBM. Title, he is a project manager. So now I'm giving that lead status as working contacted. I'm giving that fax value. I'm giving the email ID also over here. Okay, I've entered most of the field values. But I haven't entered the phone number value. Now click on save button here. The user will thought this field is an optional. But when you click on the save button, it won't allow you to insert the record. It is showing that error message over here. My rule will fire. Upon click on the save button is going to informing to the page layout whether the user has created any validation rules on these fields or not. If the validation rules are available, it will fire the validation rules. If all the rules have been fired, if all the rules are satisfied, then only record will be acceptable. But in this case, one rule is failing here. That means here, in this case, the value should not be empty. The value is empty right now over here. So in this case here, the user did not enter the phone number value, so that record cannot be acceptable. Even though once you click on that n number of time, the save button record cannot be acceptable over there. Until or unless you are not entering the phone number value, it won't allow to insert. Now, I'm entering the phone number value here. I've entered some value. Now click on save button, my record will be accepted right now. Suppose in future, after some time, I'm changing this record values. Here I'm making this value as empty. Once you click on save, then also rule will fire. That means validation rules are always firing before insertion, before updation. In both the cases, it will fire here. Okay. So now here also I'm entering the value again, make the record to be saved. Then only record will be acceptable. This is how we can able to make the field required with the help of validation rules. Okay. Now, the next one. Understood that one? How to use this function, how to create the validation rule, and how can we test it? Now, the next one. The second function over here is null. Is null of the field name or API name. Is null function. Session will go up to 1 today. Okay. No break, only half an hour is there, right? The second function is null function. Then what is this is null function basically here? This function is used to verify whether the specified field value is null or not, nothing but empty or not. So now you can raise a question, sir, already we have a function is blank, which is used to validate whether a field value is empty or not. Then why again one more function that is null here? Now in this case, is null function will be purely applicable on numerical fields. Okay, is null function can be purely applicable on numerical fields, which will be accepting only the numerical values here. Now tell me, inside my field data types, what field types are there which are purely accepting numerical values? What are those field types? Number type, currency type. One more. Percentage. Okay, only these three. Okay, we are having three numerical fields are available: number field, currency field, and then percent field. These three fields are purely expecting the numerical values here. Okay, it may be purely integer also, it may be with the combination of decimal points also, whatever here. Depends upon your choice, whatever we have selected. Okay, now, so in this case here, if you want to make sure whether a specific numerical field is null or not, empty or not, then we can go with that is null. But this is null function cannot be applicable on the text fields over here. If you are having some string type of fields, like as text field, email field, URL field, on those fields we can't apply this is null function. Is null can be applicable only for the numerical fields, not for the text fields. But is blank field function can be applicable on both numerical as well as the text fields also. The flexibility is available. It's a common question between the interview point of view, difference between is null and is blank. Both are used to verify whether the field value is null or not. But in this case, is null function can be applicable only on the numerical fields, and the is blank function can be applicable on both numerical fields as well as text fields also over here. Okay? Now, whenever we are going to be validating the data for the numerical fields, always we have to use is null function over here. Okay? Now, so now here in this case here, the syntax is null of, we can specify the field name, annual revenue, is null of like some current CTC. Like that we can specify that over here. Depends upon your requirement. So now let's take a small use case on this one. So now for example, I'm having an object here. I'm having my own custom object. So now here I'm having my own object here, a custom object is there with the name candidate. Inside my candidate object, I'm having so many fields are available here. Okay, I'm having so many fields. Here we have the fields are available here. Like we are having some currency related fields are available. Current CTC, expected CTC. Upon creating this record, current CTC field is not a mandatory here. It's an optional. But I want to make it mandatory with the help of the validation rules. Then how? What is the condition you want to prepare right now? Now tell me on what object we need to create the validation rule right now? candidate object, because I'm validating the data of the candidate record. So that create the validation rule on your candidate object here. Create a new validation rule, specify the rule name over here, like as current CTC is required. I'm going to be indicating that the description of that validation rule also as current CTC is required. How can we prepare this one here? Just to go to that is null function over here. You will be having that is null function. Now inside this is null function, I would like to type a field name over here, like as current CTC. Okay, current CTC field over here. Okay, the current CTC. So now check the syntax here. If the current CTC field value is empty, then I want to show that error message over here. Check the syntax here. There is no errors are available. I'm indicating that message. Please enter the current CTC of the candidate. I want to show this error message at the field label called as current CTC field. Okay, I want to show at the current CTC field. Now, so let's click on save button. Open any of the candidate record. We can test it during insertion or updation also. I'm opening an existing record here. Already, when coming to the current CTC, there is a field values available. I'm making this value as empty here. Okay, I made that value as empty. When I click on save button, will the record will be acceptable now? No, because we made that current CTC as mandatory here. Once you click on save, it is indicating the message, please enter the current CTC of the candidate here. If you did not enter this value, the record cannot be committing back to the database here. Now I'm entering the value over here. Now once you click on save, record will be acceptable. That means not only at the time of creation, at the time of updation also validations will file over here. Okay? Now, make a note here. Create a validation rule to make the current CTC field as mandatory. The candidate record. So this is the validation rule we have created here. As of now, we have made the normal text fields as mandatory, number fields as mandatory. Suppose, for example, I want to make a pick list field as mandatory here. How can we make a pick list field as mandatory? How can we make a pick list field as mandatory here? There is a field, industry, rating field, type field, ownership, and we are having active status, customer priority, SLA, multiple fields are available which are of type pick list. How can we make a pick list field as mandatory here? Now, in this case here, whenever if you want to make the pick list field as mandatory, in this case, first of all, we have to collect the currently selected value of the pick list field. For example, in my account object, I am having this rating field. In this rating field, it will be having the 4 values are available here. It is having 4 values are available. Now, what will happen internally, you should be able to understand. Okay? When coming to the rating field is nothing but of type pick list. This pick list field is purely supporting the map collection format in the backend. In the database level, in the backend level, it is purely supporting the map collection here. Then what it describes basically here, now let me explain. I am having that pick list over here. In my rating field, I'm having three values are available. Hot, warm, cold, and along with that there is a none values available here. Okay, now let's see here. So now here we are having that values are available here. So when coming to my pick list field, we are having few values are available inside that here. Like what values are available? Now let me explain practically here. In this case, in the user interface level, what fields will be getting visible? In the database, what values will be getting stored? Let me explain practically in this case here. So now, for example, this is my rating field. Now this is my rating field over here. In this rating field, you will be having the two formats are available. The first one is the key. Second one is the value part. Okay, you will be having the key and the value parts will be available here. You will be having key and the value. So what are the keys are available here? Right now inside your pick list field, whatever the elements are available, these are nothing but the keys. Okay, these are nothing but the keys. Now in this case here, you will be having that values. You will be having the value none. You will be having the value none. Second one is hot. Third one is warm. Fourth one is cold. Okay, now. So these are the values are available inside my pick list field here. So now here in this case here, whenever I'm going to be selecting this hot value, then what it will store inside the database? Value means it will be storing inside the database level here. In the database level. That means database column level it will be storing this value. This is in the pick list, in the user interface level. Okay, user interface level. Now inside my pick list field, we are having these four values are available. None, hot, warm, and the cold. Inside my pick list field, if I'm selecting the value as hot, it will be storing the value inside the database also as hot. Inside the pick list field, if I'm selecting the value as warm, it will store the value inside the database also as warm. If I'm storing like selecting as cold, it will store the value as cold. If I'm selecting that value as null, it will display the value, it will store the value as null. That means what? When coming to the user interface, we are selecting this value. But upon selecting this value, in the database, what it will store over here? It will be storing these values over here internally here. Now, if you want to make a field required, then what needs to be done in this case here? We need to get this value over here. Whether this value is null or hot or warm or cold. That means is it a null value or not null value I need to identify. Okay. So in the user interface level here, in the user interface level, these are the elements will be getting populated. Upon selecting this element, once you click on save, whenever I'm selecting this value, the corresponding value will be populating to the database column over here. That's what you can take any pick list field also here. When you go to the field properties here, go to the field properties for the rating field. Open the rating field, you will be having the two things are available, key and the value here. See. Two options are available. So these are the values will be getting visible in the user interface. These are the values are storing inside the database automatically here. Okay, it's a purely a map collection. If I'm selecting the option as none, it will store the default value as null inside my database over here. Now, if you want to make sure whether this field is a null or not, nothing but mandatory or not, then we have to collect this value over here, which has been storing into the database. If it is null, then only I want to show the message over here. This field should not be null, so please select the pick list field. Then how can we get this currently selected value over here? In order to get this value, we are using a function called as text function, which has been given by Salesforce here. We have to use the text function. Text function will be giving the currently selected value inside the quick list field. We can get this value, not this value. Don't use this value over here. We need to collect this value because these are the values we'll be storing inside the database over here. In this case, if this value is null or not, we need to identify. So based on that here, we can decide whether we can show the error message or not. For that reason here, to get the currently selected value which is available inside my pick list field, we are using the text function here. Okay, now let's see how can we use the text function. Text of, here we can specify only the pick list field names, not the normal fields. Text function will allow us only the pick list fields, not the normal text box fields, phone fields. It won't allow over here. This is the internal implementation of the pick list control. Now, so what is the use of text function? Text function is used to collect the currently selected value inside the pick list field. In order to get the currently selected value inside the pick list field, we are using that text function over here. Suppose, for example, assume that here I am creating a record inside my account object here. Here I am selecting the value as none. For the remaining fields, I have entered some values over here. I want to make this rating field as mandatory. When I click on save button, what will happen? Here I am selecting the value as none. None in the sense what it will do, what it will store inside the database, null value. That what I need to do, I need to collect this value over here. How can we collect this value? We can able to collect the value with the help of that text function, text of rating. Now what it will do, the text function will be simply returning the value to you. What value it is going to store inside the database, that value it will return to you. It may be null, it may be non-null, whatever over here. Now we need to verify whether that value is null or not over here. How can we check whether the value is null or not? Is blank over here. Okay, we have to use is blank again. Okay, we can use that is blank field here. That means what two functions I'm using right now. One is text function, second one is blank function here. If you are using is blank of rating, directly it will give the compilation error to you. When you click on check syntax, it will give the compilation error. Syntax will be wrong. Because your pick list field cannot be acceptable in all the methods over here. Only a few methods will be acceptable here. So in this case, pick list is having so many elements are available. So now from that elements, which element you have selected here? Okay. So depends upon that we have to identify that value is null or not. Okay. Clear? Now. So now let me create that validation tool over here. I want to make sure the rating field as mandatory field inside my account record here. Now, make a note of this syntax over here. Text of rating. Text of active __ C. Text of, I would like to specify the position status. Any field, we can able to specify. Now, let's take a use case. Create a validation rule and account object to make sure the rating field required. To make sure the rating field required. So now let's tell me here what is that validation condition now. I want to make sure this particular account records rating field should be a mandatory field. Now tell me on what object I need to create the validation rule. Account object. Go to the accounts tab, create a new validation rule. Customer rating is required. I'm giving some description also. I'm indicating that. Suppose if I'm using directly is a blank of some rating, it won't accept. Okay, just click on that, check syntax. It will be giving the message here. Field rating is a pick list field. Pick list fields are not supported or supported only in some certain functions. It won't allow directly. So now in this case here, rating field will be a purely a pick list format, and that too it is a of type map collection internally by default. So that here, now user interface level, we are having different values. In the backend level, we will be having different values internally here. So at that time here, which value you are trying to be storing inside the database level, we need to collect that. To get that currently selected value, we are using that text function here. Text function will be concentrating on these values here. Okay, it will collect this value. So now based on this value, it will identify whether it is blank or not, nothing but null or not. If it is null, it will show the error message over here. Okay. Now check the syntax over here. Now the syntax is valid. There is no error messages available here. Now I want to show that message which you would like to display here. Please select customer rating. I want to show that error message, okay, at the rating field level, so that I'm using that field as rating. Now click on save button. Now my validation tool has been created right now. Let's go to the account object, create a new account. I'm entering some value over here. I'm saving this record here. Okay, I'm saving this record. I'm not selecting any rating field value. Click on save. Now it is indicating the industry field value we need to select over here. Now I'm saving that record. Now, phone value also. Now. So now the validations or triggers are firing internally here. Now in this case, it is expecting the value for that rating field here. Now please select the customer rating. So now here we are having that the three values are available. Now I'm selecting any one of the value. Heart means what? It will be returning the value as heart. Is it a null? No. So that now the record will be getting acceptable over here. The record will be created successfully for you. So now here in this case here, whenever we are going to be creating the fields, okay, whenever we are creating the fields, in order to make sure that pick list is mandatory, we have to use these two functions over here. Is blank function and text function. Okay. Clear? Now, next one. The next one is changed function. Then what do you mean by is changed? What is the use of this one here? Sometimes my customer raised the question here. For example, come to a general scenario. I'm having a bank account. In my bank account, I'm having so many values are there. Like my name is there, nickname is there, PAN number is there, my address is there, phone number, email ID, everything is there. Through internet banking or through mobile banking, we can update our PAN also inside that. We can update our communication address also here. That possibility is available. We can update our nickname also. Can I change my account name? No. You can't change. Name can't be changed by the end user. That can be done through the banking employees only here. We have to go to the bank, raise a request, boss, there is some spelling mistakes are there in my name. So because of that, I'm facing some issue here. So please make the correction inside my name over here. So that we have to make an application, then only those people will be making the necessary corrections. As a user, I can't change that. In this case here, how can we implement? Okay, how can we implement those kind of things? So how can we prevent to change a field value by the user? How can we do that here? Now let's see. In this case here, in order to know whether a field value has been modified or not, in order to verify whether a field value has been changed or nothing but modified or not, we are using a function called as isChanged function. If the field value has been modified, it will return the value true. If the field is not modified, it will be returning the value as false. Based on that, we can show the error message to the user. So like boss, you are not having the rights to change that field value here. Okay? Now, in this case here, make a note of the syntax here. Is changed of the phone. Is changed of the maximum budget. Like that. Now, take a small use case. Create a validation rule. Create a validation rule on the candidate object to prevent the change the candidate name. Create a validation rule on the candidate object to prevent the change of the candidate name here. When the user tries to modify the candidate name, I don't want to allow. Candidate name should be fixed. Once a record has been created, that will be fixed value. We can't change. Then how can we do that one here? Now let's see. I'm having my candidate object here. So now currently, I'm having the candidate record is there like some Suresh Kumar. Now it is allowed here. I'm changing some Suresh Kumar to some Pavan Kumar. I'm changing this value. Now it is accepting the record over here as it is. I'm changing the value from Pavan Kumar to Pavan Kumar 123. Now it is accepting as it is over here. Now we can able to change. But now I want to prevent this. How? For that one, I'm creating a validation rule over here. Create a new validation rule. Prevent the candidate name changes. I'm preventing the candidate record name change values. I would like to indicate here, if is changed of name field. That means if the candidate record's name has been changed, then I want to show the message to the user. I don't want to allow. Check the syntax over here. Now I want to show that here. You are not authorized to change the candidate name. I want to show the message, you are not authorized, you don't have the proper rights to change the name of the candidate here. I want to show that error message at the name field itself. Now click on save. Now my validation rule is ready. Let's go to the candidate object here. Open any of the record, whatever we have. Now currently the name is Pavan Kumar 123. Now I'm changing it back to that Pavan Kumar simply. Okay, I've removed that 123. Once you click on save, it won't allow. It is giving the message, you are not having the rights to modify the candidate record name here. That will be fixed. Once the candidate record has been created, that will be fixed so that we can't change. If you want to make any changes, then make an application to the organization. They will make the necessary corrections over here. So you don't have the rights to change that record over here. Now, even though when the user click on that save button again and again and again, it won't allow to modify that value. So that here, make the cancel here. Now you'll be getting the previous value as it is. Okay. Like that here, we can able to prevent the changes of the record values also. Okay. Now. So now here in this case here. As of now, in order to validate the information, we have used a single condition. Okay, only one conditions we have used. Sometimes, if the requirement may be complex, we need to validate multiple conditions also. Then how? For that one, we are having some ready-made functions has been given by Salesforce over here, which are called as logical functions. How to use those logical functions we'll see in the next session over here. Okay.